Here is a little video explaining all of the operations on functions. In our first example, we are going to add f plus g of x. Now, f plus g of x is the same thing as taking our f of x function and adding it to the g of x function that is given. So let's start with writing out f plus g of x and filling in what those two functions are. F of x is given to us represented by 3x squared plus 7x. So we'll write 3x squared plus 7x, add that to my g of x function, which is 2x squared minus x plus 1. Now both of these are written in parentheses, and that's just to get into a good habit for later, just in case our function's represented in the way where we need to distribute a number before we start combining like terms. In this case, our f plus g of x, we don't have any distributing to do, so when we write out our equation, we are going to just get rid of our parentheses. Now we can start combining like terms. So f plus g of x is equal to, we have like terms with 3x squared plus 2x squared, which will be 5x squared. 7x and minus x combined to be plus 6x, and then minus 1 is a term by itself. So f plus g of x is 5x squared plus 6x minus 1. In this next example, we are now going to subtract our two functions. So f minus g of x. F minus g of x is the same thing as taking our function given f of x and subtracting the other given function g of x. So let's start subtracting our functions. F minus g of x is equal to, we take our f of x function, 3x squared plus 7x, and we're subtracting the entire g of x function, 2x squared minus x minus 1. This is where the parentheses really come in handy, because since we're subtracting our whole entire g of x function, we are going to have to distribute a negative 1. So f minus g of x is equal to, my original f of x doesn't change, but I do need to distribute that negative 1 to every term in my g of x function. So negative 1 times 2x squared will be negative 2x squared. Negative 1 times negative x will be positive x, and negative 1 times negative 1 is positive 1. Notice that from the original g of x function, where we had a positive 2 of x, it's now negative. We had a negative x, it's now positive, and a negative 1 over here is now positive 1. So in our next step, we're going to combine our like terms. So 3x squared minus 2x squared, we combine to have x squared. 7x plus x is 8x, and again, our plus 1 is our only constant. So f minus g of x is x squared plus 8x plus 1. In this third example, we're going to multiply f times g of x. So f times g of x is the same thing as taking f of x and multiplying it by the function g of x. So f times g of x will first take our f of x function, which is 3x squared minus 2x plus 1, and multiply that by our function x minus 4, which is g of x. Now we just need to distribute. 3x squared times x is 3x cubed. 3x squared times negative 4 is negative 12x squared. Negative 2x times x is negative 2x squared. Negative 2x times negative 4 is positive 8x. Positive 1 times positive x is positive 1x. And positive 1 times negative 4 is negative 4. Now that we've completely distributed, we just need to combine some like terms. So 3x cubed is our single term, our single cubed term. We have negative 12x squared minus 2x squared combined to be negative 14x squared. Plus 8x plus x equals plus 9x, and our minus 4 is our only constant. So f times g of x is equal to 3x cubed minus 14x squared plus 9x minus 4. Finally, we are going to divide functions. So f divided by g of x is the same thing as taking our function f of x and dividing it by our given function g of x. One other detail when you divide functions is to make sure that you need to state any restrictions that you have on the domain. So let's start by dividing our f divided by g of x. We'll start with our f of x function, 3x squared minus 2x plus 1, and divide that by the g of x function, which is x minus 4. We are actually going to leave our functions just like this, but before we finish this problem, we need to figure out what would make the denominator equal to 0, because that would be a restriction on the domain since we cannot divide by 0. In order to figure that out, you can always take your denominator and set it equal to 0 and figure out what number it is that makes your denominator equal 0. So we set x minus 4 equal to 0, canceling 4 out on the left and adding 4 to the right, x would equal 4. So what that means is that 4 would make the denominator equal 0. So since 4 would make the denominator equal 0, x cannot equal 4. So when we state our final answer, f divided by g of x, we just fill in our two functions being divided and make sure that we state that x cannot equal 4. And that is how we represent our answer. And that is all for our operations of functions video.